Hello and welcome to Must Read Fiction, a place for people who know that life is better with a novel in hand. I'm Erin Popelka, and I'm delighted to be here today with Tommy Swerdlow. Welcome.
Hey.
Tommy Swerdlow is an actor and screenwriter. He has appeared in such films as Howard the Duck and Spaceballs, and co-wrote the screenplays Cool Runnings, Little Giants, Snow Dogs, and The Grinch. Swerdlow made his directorial debut with the 2017 feature 1,000 Junkies. We are talking today about Straight Dope, his first novel. And I know you have a copy of it handy. Let's see that beautiful book. Oh my gosh, so excited. Congratulations on your very first novel. Let's tell me about it. Tell me about Straight Dope.
Well, I mean, basically, I've always written, and I wrote my first book, and I never published it or anything. But speaking of acting, which I don't really do much anymore, but I was in the movie you talked about, 1,000 Junkies, that I directed. I'm in that. So that was with a couple of friends. But I did this movie called Hamburger Hill when all the Vietnam movies were coming out. It was one of the 3 Vietnam movies: Full Metal Jacket, Platoon, and Hamburger Hill. We were the last to the party, which wasn't great, but each day I got to the Philippines, and I was just an actor. I'd written a lot of poetry my whole life, and I was every day on the bus there and back, I would write these sort of 500 hours journal, like military style journal entries, and wrote a book. And so I always knew I could kind of do it. And then acting's kind of a strange gig, and finally I just kind of tired of it, and I became a screenwriter. But and I wrote some short stories. But my kid, who was about 16, or maybe he was a senior, he got assigned The Big Sleep, the Raymond Chandler book. And so he's got an interesting situation where he lives with his mom, who I'm still really close to, and her best friend, whose name is Hani. And he had to read The Big Sleep, and he couldn't read it. And then Hani read The Big Sleep, and she said, "This is terrible." I said, "Terrible?" I said, "I hear Raymond Chandler's amazing. I've never read it. Let me look at it." And so I open up Chandler, I open up The Big Sleep, and I'm like, oh, I think I can do this. Like, this makes sense to me. I think maybe I can do, I get this, the kind of humor and the short kind of screenwriting brevity, the compact energy, the rhythm, the music of it. I think maybe I can take a crack at this. So it took me a couple of years, and I decided, I was like, well, what am I gonna write about? So I decided to write a few things that I knew about, which were show business, Los Angeles, and both drug addiction and recovery, because I had been a drug addict. So I just stuck with it.
Well, I am so glad that you stuck with it because now we get to read Straight Dope, which is so exciting. And I was actually hoping, do you mind reading the opening for me? It's got the opening of the book is like, it's just got a really amazing voice and kind of sense of its own. And I would love it if you would just kind of read that first bit for us, if you don't mind.
Happy to. For years, the forecast had been no. No and windy, no and cloudy, no with a chance of showers. At times it seemed the sun might break through, but it was always a hoax. And even when it did, it was that harsh, flat, smog-sick light that blasts you out and breaks you down to nothing. Los Angeles isn't for people, it's for lizards. Human beings weigh too much for this town, and the ground breaks away from under their feet. Some folks don't like that feeling and lurch to get their balance, but some have learned to love it and believe their footsteps actually change the shape of the earth. New York is different. It's built on granite and good taste, but LA is made of crumbling clay and whatever you can get away with. And for a while, I got away with it all. But then the weather changed and the barometric pressure grabbed me by the throat. I needed it to rain, but all it did was blow, a steady and relentless gale of no coming off the ocean and tearing down Wilshire Boulevard.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, it's such a great, there's no choice but to keep going from there. It's so much fun. So, tell me a little bit about this opening and how does it tie into some of the themes or, kind of things that get pulled through the book?
You know, the opening wasn't the opening. And the opening was all the first line of the original book was, it's one of those windy Los Angeles mornings and the palm trees are swaying back and forth like the grieving Muslim women you see on CNN. That was the first line of the book. And then it went, and then I had some other stuff about the weather, and it got like that. And then I came one day, I wrote that on my phone, the thing you just heard, you know, just having coffee, which I describe in the book, the place I used to have coffee. And I just realized I just thought it was the strongest, I don't know, it just had the code in it, the kind of, it was like, it was the Chandler, but it was my version, and it just, and it had this idea of this no, this gale of no, you know, that then had to be either dealt with or, you know, alchemized, transferred into something else. So I was like, I think that's the best, like, let's just go, you know, it's my first book. Let's just go with the best paragraph I have right at the top, since thematically it makes sense and it's sort of abstract enough to, listen, I wanted it to do what it seemed to do for you, which was go, it's strong, I'm interested, I'm in, you know, so I went with it.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Yeah. And the book also kind of plays with a noir style. Can you tell me a little bit more about how that came about?
Yeah, I mean, I just told you. I mean, I really leaned on Raymond Chandler.
Yeah.
I hadn't written, you know, it's like, I remember, I think Norman Mailer said novels are moods, you know what I mean? And so I've always been able to sort of like, I can wake up and sort of take my emotional temperature, my kind of psychic temperature, and energetically maybe capture what's going on with me in the immediate. I've always had an ability to do that, you know, and poetry is a lot like that, and things are like that. But this was, you know, a big container. I think of like it as like a big container, a novel, and you have to keep going back to that story. A little more like a screenplay, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not just, I mean, things can be influenced by what's going on and be alive with that, but you can't just sort of go, oh, I want a new book today. So I was leaning on Chandler and leaning on that rhythm and that style as a way to trick myself into consistency also, you know what I mean? Because, you know, I'm writing another book now and it's much easier. I've done it once, you know what I mean? I have a little bit more confidence of just, it's still unknown, but it's not as unknown, you know what I mean? So that's all it was. I mean, and the noir thing I thought was just, it was just interesting. I mean, he really got me. Like, I just, again, it was like screenwriting in a lot of ways. It was like screenwriting description a little bit, in the idea of trying to get it done short, you know what I mean? And keep the thing moving, you know, sort of like anti-Saul Bellow, you know, like just not like I'm going to mention everything I see. You know?
Totally, totally, totally. Oh, well, super, super exciting. And it sounds like, you know, it's a very fun ride. And yeah, and exciting that you're writing the next one too. I bet that is a pretty fun project that you're doing there. So very exciting. And you mentioned too how much it's like screenwriting. And so you kind of anticipated my last question, which is, you know, as we've talked about, in addition to being a novelist, you are also a director and you have done some acting and you are a screenwriter. And so I'd love to hear, like, what do you like about each of those different mediums and how have they sort of complemented each other?
Well, I mean, screenwriting is a the great thing about screenwriting is that they pay you to do it if you're like doing it, you know what I mean? Like it's like a, you know, it's like being a copywriter in some way, you know what I mean? It's like it's got a purpose, and if you get in there, you can make a living doing it, or it can be an actual occupation if you figure it out. It can be fun, you know, like I got into this, like my movie taste is like very, you know, snooty, Criterion Channel. Like I don't really like commercial movies. I wouldn't go see most of the movies I write, but there's a certain, you know, when I wrote Cool Runnings, which was, you know, me and my partner we had no expectations, you know, and we were shocked at the way it was beloved. And I mean, it's like, I can do anything. I could do anything. Like, it's amazing. People will come up to me, I mean, they just love that movie, you know, so much. And it's got a lot of my my sensibility, but I realized, oh, these are valuable, like these things have value, especially the kids growing up on them. People relate to this stuff, you know? And so I got into this kind of mantra of sort of authentic, accessible stuff in my book, even, you know, I mean, it's not a lot of language, it's not a lot of big vocabulary. I like to keep things pretty accessible, but I'm not like a person who loves screenwriting. I do appreciate like a scene and sort of like what it is to write a really good scene. I mean, I like writing the book a lot better, to tell you the truth, because the book has a lot of dialogue scenes in it. Directing is interesting. I mean, that's a whole, you know, because I was an actor. I mean, all of this stuff to me is sort of like, you know, capturing energy, however you're capturing it, sometimes with a camera, sometimes on the page. And like I always say, like, can I make what matters to me matter to you? I mean, the questions of this kind of coalescing of energy, dispersing of energy, can I make what matters to me matter to you? Can I capture this and get it to be somewhere, this wild, energetic thing? These are all the same issues and same problems, no matter what I'm up to. You know what I mean? I'm sure they're the same problems for painters. There's the same problems for musicians. They're just the problems, you know? So they're always interesting and challenging, you know? And, but as I said, screenwriting is great because, you know, it's kept me from getting a real job.
Oh, that's funny. But I love, you're right, that sentiment is exactly right. You know, that capturing of the energy, like, can I make what matters to me matters to you? Because I do feel like, you know, when there is that like passion in whatever art form it is in that medium, like you can feel it and there's a resonance there. You know, you sort of feel it like creative person to creative person, right? Or like human to human, of just like, oh, I understand our experience now a little bit better. So yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's, you know, that's it. I'd like to make another movie. People can watch the movie I made, 1,000 Junkies, is on Amazon and for free. And it's a kind of interesting, it's a drug movie that has no drugs in it. And it's kind of a little bit like if the Little Rascals were strung out and had to score, like three, you know, foolish bumpkins driving around. And we sort of embraced the, you know, a lot of drug movies have a kind of hip, slick, and cool aesthetic, and ours is just how pathetic it really gets to be when just you're that desperate, you know what I mean, and that owned by something. And so it's actually kind of funny. It's sad and funny, you know. So I suggest it. I'm proud of it. I think people will enjoy it. It's a very unusual drug movie.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you. Thank you for making 1,000 Junkies. Thank you for writing Straight Dope. Do you mind just showing us that book one more time, just so we can get a great look at it?
My friend John Demonil took this picture down at the motel where the girl who dies in the book that starts everything supposedly dies, and he also shot 1,000 Junkies. He's an incredible photographer, cinematographer. He's a writer. His name is John Demonil, so I'll give him a plug too.
Fantastic. So great. Well, people watching, please do check out Straight Dope. Please do check out 1,000 Junkies. And Tommy Swerdlow, thank you so very much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thank you. It's great to talk to you.